All right, I'm gonna start because it's recording. My name is Shayna. I am the Conservation Commission Chair. And before we officially get into any agenda items, let's go around and introduce ourselves.
I'm Margaret Gerber. I'm with the Brunswick and Land Trust. And we're here to chat about the Meadowcross Road subdivision.
I'm Angie Brewer. I'm on the commission and
I'm Audie Arbo, I'm on the commissions.
I'm Ryan Holmes, a Topsham resident and select board member here.
I'm Josh Franklin. I'm the town planner.
Chris Lyle, member of the Conservation Commission.
Eric Whitney.
Conservation Commission.
I'm Christy Hattrick. I'm with the Brunswick Topsham Land Trust.
And Margaret Wilson, board member of the Brunswick Topsham Land Trust.
Pam,
Right, and then Pam, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Pam Leduc, Topsham Parks and Recreation Director.
Thanks for being here, Pam. All right, let's do our minutes first. So I will make a motion to pass our February 2nd minutes as written.
Second.
Anybody have any discussion about it?
I think there was a double check the date on the top. I think maybe the hyperlink said February 25. But were the minutes correct? They said 2026.
they do.
Okay, I think it was just the hyperlink that said, I couldn't remember which was which.
Oh,
I think I may have caught it after Shayna sent it and changed it.
So I think you just.
it could have been me.
As long as the minutes are.
It's correct now. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so with that edit, all in favor of passing the minutes as written? Opposed? Audie, are you okay with that?
Abstaining.
I'm abstaining, because remember I
You were-
no showed, because I forgot about
Right,
it.
right.
My defense, my best friend was home from Montana and I totally spaced.
Happens, it happens. All right, I'd also like to move our item 3 to item 2 because we have guests that want to talk about those updates, if anybody has a problem with that. Great. All right. So at our last meeting, Josh came and talked to us about 300 Meadowcross Road, where they want to do an open space subdivision, but in order to do that, they would need someone to either take ownership or an easement of the open space property. After that meeting, I was sort of tasked with reaching out to BTLT, and I went to their
Lands committee.
Lands committee meeting, and where they discussed it as well. And this is our opportunity to come back together and talk about it a little bit more. And then we also looped in Pam because the project proposed some recreational and walking trails along with open space conservation. Pam, did you have a chance to look at the proposal, or would it be helpful?
I did. I actually met with Josh and Sky earlier today before I left. And I'm familiar with it. And I'm looking at Margaret trying to see what her interest is in the project, because most of the trail projects we have in Topsham are managed by BTLT. We don't have a trails crew that can maintain anything like that. So I am not opposed if the town so wishes to accept the land, but I cannot tell you that we can promise that there will be trails built at our hands. So I don't know whether it can be a collaborative like we've done before. Margaret, I'm not sure where you folks are at with BTLT, if it's even something you're interested in. But I'm open to discussion. And of course, if we were to decide by the Conservation Commission and the Parks and Recreation, if BTLT is not so inclined, then we would have to take it to the select board, obviously, and it would have to be accepted through the process.
You want to give us an update on
Sure.
your discussions?
Yeah, I think since most of you weren't there when our lands committee met, our discussions, I think something we have in common is that we haven't been out on the property. Our lands committee did take a site walk actually about 15 years ago, because this has been a priority parcel for us for a long time. But until taking a walk out there, it's really hard, really hard to judge. I haven't been out there, for example, how feasible trails would be. Looking at the site plans, it certainly looks as though the majority of the area that would be an open space is pretty wet. We hold a conservation easement directly abutting this property, and if the parcel west of the power lines is anything like the parcel west of the power lines that we currently hold, it is quite wet out there. So I think we would really need to get out there and take a walk to see how feasible it would be. Just looking at the site plan, I'd say it doesn't excite me thinking of building trails out there, because it would have to be hardened or have significant bridging, and I think that the primary conservation values that we see for this property are not necessarily recreational there, that it's part of this 5,000 acre undeveloped forest block. And while I know it has grown up 15 years ago, there were portions of it that were open, and it's been a farmland priority for us because it does have prime ag soils. So those are our primary kind of conservation values that we see associated with this property, rather than recreational. But again, we need to get out there and see on the ground what it looks like, ideally not at 5 degrees and 2 feet of snow.
Right, I think the two things that also came up for us were, could any of the proposed lands that were actually being set aside be developed anyway? And, would it remove the connectivity to the more like forested area around it? That was kind of why it rose to the top of the natural areas plan, middle to high priority, when that was written. So I don't think without getting out there, we'd probably be able to assess that, but those were the couple of things we were talking about as well.
Yeah, our lands committee definitely highlighted, just seeing these plans, and just seeing the wet areas, it's hard to feel as though this meaningfully protects open space, rather than just doesn't develop areas that possibly likely couldn't be developed otherwise. But those are some.
Where do we stand with the town process? Did Joe submit preliminary, like a sketch plan or something?
So pre-application, the pre-application hearing was last Thursday, and the pre-application, is. No decisions are made by the planning board on that, but basically they've submitted, and actually, since we're talking about it, they did bring it, we do have a plan set here that I can just put it out. The company we're on Zoom, but. So. Pretty much, he just explains what the project looks like for, there's a lot of analysis that he did. And what I do is I just turn into the page.
Josh, do you get the sense that developing it in this way as an open space subdivision would be more protective of
The natural.
than if it was a more traditional subdivision?
So from a planning perspective, absolutely. And the reason why is this, if you look at this map here.
He's on the screen up here.
Yeah, sorry, on the screen. If you look at the screen here, basically what conservation subdivision has allowed us to do here is, because the applicant can reduce the size of the lots. Where you see these pockets, as you know, this is where the development would be, and everything else outside of it would remain in perpetuity in open space. If the developer is unable to get a conservation organization or the town's conservation commission to accept either accept ownership of the land or accept an easement over the land, then what could happen is the developer could basically make as many units as possible, and those units, instead of having these smaller parcels could take up the entire portions. So
They'd be like longer.
yes, they'd be
Yeah.
longer and take up pretty much all of the land. And what happens in that sense is that then the what happens to the land in individual parcels depends on the individual landowners. So you may have a landowner who has an individual parcel, that, let's say, has like a portion of this stream, for example, right? There are things that they can and can't do in there, but, how you can, enforce that gets very difficult, and as far as like trees and like pretty much, once you've parceled all of these things off, people can do. People have a lot of ability to do what they want on their land, as they should.
Yeah.
So this allows, basically, you say, okay, you're allowing development in these pockets, and pretty much the entire rest of it remains in perpetuity undeveloped. So that's the benefit of doing an open space subdivision.
And the BTLT section that you all have is the western parcel that's still on that map?
Oh,
That lower
the
there.
two
Yeah.
parcels directly south and then across the road as well, actually, it's three
Yeah.
parcels.
Yeah, those three.
Yeah, I mean, I see the benefit as being, not, at least with this parcel, which there's no planned development, you're not fragmenting that, not
Right.
that it's gonna be any very easy to develop that
It's not
piece of
good.
property, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they could get a house lot in there, and if they wanted to do a stream crossing, they could do something there, but having not walked the lot, that
Right.
may not be very feasible at all.
You guys note the CMP corridor goes right
Right.
up through that. Everybody may not recognize it.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
This is
That's the utility
Yeah,
corridor
that
there.
was one question our lands committee had, would it even be possible for residential access to get a residential crossing?
So yes, it has been done before, and it's actually not very difficult to do. Developers can ask CMP if they'd be allowed to put an easement for a road to go across, and we have had projects where that's been requested and CMP said it's fine,
Do
so.
you have any sense, and I understand this is very specific questions, maybe you won't, when that most recently happened here in Topsom?
The most recent, it wasn't a residential project, is the one I'm thinking of, but in Highland Green, they developed a solar facility, and they needed to provide an access road there, and
Right.
so.
Do you have a sense for residential though? Cause for solar, it would be
That's true.
like annual maintenance versus constant.
Right,
thing,
exactly.
So
So
I
I
can see
can't,
that having different.
yeah, I can't name one that's happened recently. I've talked to Sky, she's the planning director, about the same question. And she's told me that they can do, but I couldn't name one that's happened here.
Yeah,
Are you talking about road crossing or trail crossing?
the road, like would
goes by.
CMP actually
Okay,
give?
the road that
Oh,
goes-
to develop that.
Develop
that
or
section.
have- and have
Which is.
That little north
residential
corner.
increase
Yeah.
Right there
traffic
in
in
the
the process.
process.
My road is.
I think it's been
Across
across
the
the
HCC,
It's
a.
So
Yeah.
I don't know how.
there's an example, Ryan has an example. here,
Well,
which-
but that, I
What
mean.
road is that? Off
that's not
Pfeffer Road, that little neighborhood.
No.
Oh, yeah, the Topsom Crossing.
Towson Crossing, they have a road that crosses.
Yeah.
CMP corridor or
Yeah.
two, because and then the new project on back.
Yeah.
They have the road that goes all the way around, so I think there's actually
yeah.
two roads that cross CMP there.
I would agree with Josh. I don't think it's typically a very big impediment, especially when you're just talking about residential car traffic and stuff like that. I don't think it would be impossible for them to get across there somehow again, and not knowing what those wetlands look like. Is it possible to develop this or this? But Joe did tell us that
Yeah.
if an open space subdivision was not approved, they would, it seemed like it wasn't sure what would happen with the parcel. It would be less lots than the 30 that they're proposing. And I'm not sure if it would be beneficial for this particular developer to make this subdivision happen with acre and a half lots versus the
Yeah.
half acre or whatever they're able to do with open space. So,
So
some other developer might be willing to do it though,
Right.
different developers have
Yeah.
different thresholds for
Right.
what they're willing to make for money, so.
I'm curious if we do the lot and a half, assumption. That of course is only in certain, you can't do that in the wetlands and stuff.
Well, you could
Well,
theoretically.
Well, how.
Part of
how many
the acre and a half lot
How
could be the
many
wetlands.
houses?
As an example, you
How
could
many
have,
houses could you put in there?
you could, if they could get across here somehow, it's pretty narrow here. I think they could potentially do a road in acre and a half lots, and part of the acre and a half lots would be the back part of it. I mean, a lot of my property is undevelopable.
Yeah.
But I'm on the the half acre that is developable, but the back part of it would be difficult to develop,
But
so.
how many houses could go in that lot if it weren't, if it was just?
He didn't specify.
I could actually.
I'm just looking at the
I could
minutes.
do
The planning
that.
board should be able to do that.
Yeah,
Be able to tell
well, I
us
mean,
that.
38 acres
Yeah.
divided by,
Well, so the entire thing is 111 acres. And so if we divided that by 1.5 acres.
take out some for roads and stuff.
So technically, right, exactly, you'd have to take out more, but the maximum that they would be allowed to do. If they could magically fit every square inch of this is 74 lots.
Which they're not.
So, yeah.
So the other thing I'm wondering is what would the responsibility be? So like, I don't think the town would want to purchase it. So if we
No.
were assuming responsibility as the Conservation Commission, it would be an easement. And what would our additional responsibility be? It would be,
You mean take ownership of it, not purchase it? Cause they're gonna give it to,
Yeah, they would
they would
give
give
it
it
to
to the
us, yeah.
town.
right, but I
So
don't
you
think
mean, the town
wants-
would,
The
you
town
would
doesn't want it.
the town wouldn't want to own the parcel, you're saying?
Actually,
The town could.
no, the town doesn't. The town hasn't made any sort of statement that they don't want it or that they do want it, right? The very first step is that the Conservation Commission would say. Hey, we think that it's a good idea, or we think it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And then if they think it's a good idea, then the select board, our good friends at the select board would then. Listen to
Yeah.
what it's saying and then make a decision. So, yeah, now.
I mean,
there's-
I'm not hearing any of us, like Pam or us or you say, oh, yeah, like, this is a no-brainer. But I also, and I also think it would be more worthwhile if it was like co-responsibility, right? Like,
Yes, and I don't know, and I just sent it to you like today, so I don't know if you saw my recent email. Okay, great. Regardless, it's more reason for me to bring it up. So there are 4 options that the developer can use for their open space. The first option is ownership by a conservation organization approved by the planning board with permanent restrictions on its future use. It's always permanent restrictions on its future use. So ownership by the conservation organization approved by the planning board. Second option is ownership by the town with a conservation easement to a conservation organization. So that'd be owned by the town, and then there would be an easement to BTLT. Third option, ownership by the developer. They would retain the ownership, and there would be a conservation easement to the town conservation commission or to a conservation organization, BTLT. Then there's the fourth option, which would be ownership by a homeowners association with a conservation easement to the town conservation commission or a conservation organization. So if the ownership is by a homeowners association, then the homeowners association would be responsible for the land and for any, if there was to be recreation placed on that land, they would be the ones who responsible. Now, the only thing is that would have to come with a conservation easement to the town conservation commission or a conservation organization.
So there'd still be legal responsibilities to uphold that there wasn't mismanagement or something outside.
Right,
the
exactly.
terms of
They
the
could kind of.
At the narrowest, at
oversee.
least some kind of
annual
annual.
monitoring.
Yep.
Here's a question, because I'm not intimately familiar with the town's open space subdivision ordinance. Is there a scenario where just the western parcel could be held in fee by either the town or BTLT, but not the land surrounding the homes? How would that impact
So
open space?
I believe that there may be enough land, and I'd have to look back into it, just to crunch the numbers, but. Let's say that you guys or BTLT was specifically interested in this land and actually like didn't want this remaining land over here. Then this land could simply just be retained by owner. And then this land could go to BTLT or a conservation organization. There may be enough land here that it can still allow it to be built as an open space subdivision. The open space subdivision doesn't require that all open space go into conservation in perpetuity, but a certain amount does have to.
Says here,
30.
Chuck, it said 30%
30%.
of 111.6 acres, which is 33.5 and this parcel's 38.5, so theoretically that could work.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry I wasn't here for the last meeting where you might have explained it. Does open space have any requirements? That it has to be a percent usable land?
No, but what you're thinking about is for, in subdivision, you have to have a portion of open space, and a portion of that open space does have to be usable open space, but that's not quite the same as with the open space subdivision.
Okay.
So the open space, and I remember dealing with this on another development. There were some specific requirements that we had to follow in order for us to consider it open space. I'm not sure if that applies to the open space. It said it had to have deer wintering areas or something, some specific characteristics. Does that language not exist anymore?
There is, but not
Or
so
a
much
great recreational benefit, or I know there was some criteria we had to use. This was my
Yes, so
last tranche, so this was over 10 years ago.
yeah, so for open space, that is, it has to have, it has to be on the natural areas plan as at least, like medium conservation benefit, and I believe that
I think it does qualify.
It is, yep.
yes, and it
The other
does.
one we looked at, I think, didn't meet any of the, not that it wasn't a nice patch of woods, but it didn't meet any of the criteria that we had to follow. So in that case, we ended up not accepting the land and just taking the fee in lieu.
So this is more like it can, just trying to understand versus I think I am like tripped up on like the subdivision open space versus
This one.
what you were saying. So even though it's wetlands, if it's high enough value in connecting and all that stuff, then it could still be.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
So
And
I probably am
it does
confused.
fall within
Yes.
one of our focus areas in the natural areas plan, so.
So I think,
Yeah.
Uh,
Public meeting.
I just wanna make sure we're going the right way.
we're not as strict.
That's okay. My question is, in one of the options, it stated that the developer would maintain ownership of the land with the town having a conservation easement.
Yeah.
In that scenario, would the developer then be responsible for property taxes on the land because they're the owner? Or does them giving it the conservation easement, does that give them like the pass to not pay taxes? Slash, if they give the ownership to the town, then the taxes aren't realized because the town owns it.
Right, I'm almost wondering if BTLT knows the answer to that because you guys have ownership.
Yeah, they'd still be responsible for taxes as the landowner.
Okay,
But they're at a reduced rate because a portion of it would be in open space. So through the.
I'm suggesting that you guys don't accept it as open space. As one of the options was that they maintain the ownership, and instead of giving the land, they just give us an easement to the land for conservation.
yes, so the land would still, even if the owner retained it, in this case, it would be retained, but it would have to be retained as a conservation, like it would still go with the state as conservation land.
Got it.
So they get the tax benefits of that, but I guess there would still be taxes they owe on that land.
And if they ever wanted to sell that land, they could remove themselves from that covenant of conserved land.
Yep,
Right.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
What's
So
the
really
land?
behooves them to not own it.
So what,
Exactly.
given those four scenarios that Josh outlined, let's assume the land trust is interested in this. You guys deal with this all the time. What of those four options for a case like this does the land trust prefer?
Well, we very rarely are in this situation where we're approached for subdivisions. I would say typically fee is our preference over conservation easements, particularly if they're.
You own it outright,
substantial development.
You own it outright. then.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But again, I think without actually getting out there and walking the property, we just.
No,
But
I'm asking you. an
fee is
answerable
typically,
question.
I'd say since in particular the pandemic, fee is our preference.
But the other thing to note is that BLT really, I think it's highly unlikely that we would take an easement on
The park.
the little perimeter
This,
parts.
all of this.
We will not take that. I'm,
I think our lands committee feels
I think
pretty
quite
strongly
strong
about
that
that,
we-
hasn't given an end all be all, but monitoring 30 backyards for much older easements we have where that is
Just
the
not-
case, it's
not
constant
desirable,
dumping and
yeah.
constant violation.
and it no longer has conservation value particularly, so.
Yeah.
But
I-
that western parcel is the most, likely,
Yes.
if we move forward, keeping that intact. And then not having to deal with people's backyards.
So in that case, they're only, obviously, they're still gonna develop their small lots, so in that case, the homeowners association would own the rest of that
Probably.
common land within, so they would theoretically still pay taxes on that 30-something acres that isn't part of lots. And then, I actually like that
So
suggestion.
here's another option that I'm just gonna throw out there. That may not be an option, I'd have to look into it, but I just wanna throw it out there and see what people think. What if this portion here
Yeah.
went to BTLT? And then the portion in the west side was put into the HOA with the conservation easement to the town.
I mean, I don't see why that couldn't work, it's just two of the options given, but.
Then we would have to stewardship it.
Well, it's stewardship, but basically the HOA would be responsible for all costs associated with upkeeping, if any upkeep needed to happen. But basically the town would be able to, as the Conservation Commission would just be able to, you could step
Hey,
in.
you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Exactly, make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do.
The other thing is though. Because of the percentage in your statute, the ordinance, there is no reason that there is a conservation easement on all that western part. Yeah, but there's enough land on the eastern part, as it just said that it's 38. More than the 33, so I
I think the only,
mean, why would anyone take an easement on that peripheral land? I.
You haven't seen some of the easements we've taken before.
But
make sure people are appropriate. Conserving it.
Not dumping in the river.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
you wanna monitor that.
yeah,
We don't.
I hear
We're
you
clear,
loud and
we're
clear.
clear that we do not.
if you look at the elevations here, you know, you can see that there is, you know,
It's very
around where the
there.
units are. Yeah, there's a lot of like wetland and
Ravine looks like.
stream areas, so I mean, that, yeah. As Shana pointed out, that would be more like, let's say, if the Conservation Commission was particularly interested in making sure that these areas were just maintained as open space habitat,
Can you
and
zoom
that's a
back,
question
out?
for.
Can you zoom back out or go to the one that doesn't show all the contours?
Sure.
For a second.
Mhm.
The only area that would be of concern to me, let's say, and I don't know if things change in the future with subdivision ordinances. The developer comes back and decides to, you know, develop these lots out back here.
Okay.
Throw a road in here and do a bunch of small lots out back there, because that area doesn't look like it's wet. I don't know if it's developable or not. If we were to accept a conservation, if that became a homeowners association,
Right.
they theoretically could vote to allow that to be developed, because they're all gonna get some of the money associated with developing that by some future developer. But if we tied it up with an
Kind of
easement,
defeat the purpose
it
of letting
would
them.
avoid any additional
the
development
purposes.
happening here versus just the homeowners owning it.
Yeah.
Cause they could decide to vote
Well-
down the road to change that. I don't know that this.
Well, the homeowners association option, have the easement on it, so it would still be it would still
Yeah,
be
it would
in
have to.
perpetuity, and I believe that the easement holder would have to agree. If it were to be like.
I was just saying if we decided,
Oh,
Well,
just like.
if we said we don't-
completely-
you
Like, we have the
meet
easement.
your
Okay.
requirements with this
Yeah.
lot, we don't want any of that, you do whatever you want with it.
Yes,
Then
exactly.
we have no control over it.
Yep, and
It's,
then they-
it's all by the homeowners association or whatever they decide to do with
Yeah.
it. If we had an easement on it, then yes,
Right.
we would prevent it from ever happening.
Yeah.
I think since there's been a lot of talk about the wetlands, I do want to point out this was a winter delineation. The engineer said that, so there's no vernal pool survey, no hard boundaries at all.
Yeah, they said they
Yes.
haven't had a vernal pool survey yet, and that
Yeah, it
that was
was
something
January, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And they will have to,
Yeah.
so they will be, yeah.
So it could look worse or better.
Yeah.
one of the timing thing, I can't remember the timing that Joe. I know they were maybe trying to get, if the town was gonna accept this or take a conservation easement or what have you. Get into the town meeting in May.
Ooh.
I thought we talked about the
Yeah.
potential timing. I'm not sure if anything more has come forth.
I'm
I'm
not,
just trying to be sensitive to the developers.
Right,
timeline
exactly.
A little bit and making sure we're not gonna go out and look at it and learn anything today or in the next week or two. So it'd have to be, you're
Yeah.
talking end of March or April before it's gonna be of any value, I
yeah,
think.
to be honest, I don't know if we'd be able to get it onto the May meeting.
Okay.
But that would be okay as far as their process goes. The main thing is that they can't submit their preliminary plan as an open space subdivision until they have
Someone says
one of
yes.
those four.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it meet all the, as far as your review though? Does it meet all the other requirements for open space? It's just the fact they need someone to take the
Yep,
land.
exactly. And another thing that I should bring up too, because the meeting was it was a pre-application, this also isn't final. And another thing is that, the Conservation Commission, let's say that you guys looked at it and said, okay, actually, for the sake of conservation, we are interested in, the western part of that. But, right, you have the ability to talk with the applicant
Right.
and say, here are some of our concerns, here are some areas that we'd like, you know, if you need to reduce it by a lot or two, like, you can work with them to have them, maybe, because this is not at all, this is pre-application. And so the expectation is that this will change, and there are already certain lots that are likely to disappear from this plan. Mainly, for example, we have,
The ones by the road, I know, maybe
Yep.
either you or Sky that had noted that, yeah.
just like, because, another thing, that they're considering is that these lots here are in agricultural. They're being held in agricultural,
They're an active agriculture.
there you go, yep,
Yeah.
thank you. And so, what we have here, there's like a large. Basically, a lot of people that live in the area, this area has a very rural feel to it, right? And so there's a really large field in this area, that would just make sense to maybe remain as a field. And then there's like a hedgerow up here, and then some really like tall trees that come along here. And so in a way, it kind of helps to kind of like buffer, so that as you're driving along Meadowcross Road, you'd still just be passing fields, and then this buffer here would kind of, you wouldn't see so much that there's this development back here. But then it's also would be nice to know that the development was built in an environmentally sensitive way.
I'm curious, was there, I couldn't go to the planning board meeting, but was there anything that came out of that worth sharing or that, hasn't come up in this conversation?
So, I mean, one thing that I could say as far as the layout really goes, I don't know how much it would connect so much to a determination on the conservation value, but just had to do a lot with drainage, people living below that area. Apparently the soil there is very clay, so there's just a lot of and in a way, actually, I think one thing that the developers gonna have to show them is that if it's designed properly, right, they have to, because of state law, they have to collect all of the stormwater that when they create impervious surface. And so in a way that could help, that it's something that the people south of there are really conserve it. And then there were actually some people, apparently there's kind of like a trail, like, it's an informal trail.
Snowmobile trail.
Snowmobile, yeah, and so there was, someone who used it for snowmobile, and he was just concerned about whether or not be able to continue using.
Pam, do the Topsham Trail Riders, I can't look their map, I'm wondering if they.
I believe they have permission currently from the current landowners to cross it, yes.
Yeah, they go through Autumn's property, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys saw the map, it crosses up here and then goes up the corridor, so this little.
But I know Autumn did, she
Yeah.
did note that she does let them cross her property, and so maybe they cross her, because this is
Yeah.
her property down here.
Yeah.
So maybe they cross her property and then go up to the trail that
Yeah.
you're familiar with. Yeah.
Is this on public, water and sewer?
No.
No.
Do we have size requirements?
Yes, there would be requirements, so the minimum, so typically with the conservation subdivision, there's no minimum lot size unless. You're on private water sewer, which means that the minimum lot size is 20,000 square feet, so none of them get lower than 20,000 square feet here.
What are you guys doing on April 6th? That's our next meeting. I'm just thinking about a site walk. Cause we've both decided that that's an important part of deciding the next steps. I don't know how much snow there's gonna be on April 6th. I guess we're getting some more tomorrow night, but,
Yeah.
we could try for.
Yeah.
We might have to move our meeting up a little bit, obviously, although, the times are changing this weekend though, so. Maybe we
Right.
5:30. Pam, you gonna come along?
Why not, if the snow's gone?
All right, 5:27 is sunset on April 6th.
Really?
And I can,
Later than
I
that.
can also entertain with the trail riders what type of agreement they have there. Just to kind of clarify that for you if you'd like.
That'd be great.
Yeah,
And we can move it to 5 if that, I don't know, we can talk about it. If that works for everybody, but it's. We can move a little early so we have more daylight.
So Joe, looking, I mean, the developers not looking for anything specific. Feedback in the next month, even if they were.
Well, I think they want it sooner than later.
We do our due diligence, so.
Yep, but yeah, any. Basically, they're gonna want to be at least in the loop on where things are, is it still being considered, what's not being considered, so. But I think that's all that they can really, that's the most that they can ask for right now.
I don't know if you'd be interested in having Joe be available that evening, so we can at least walk us around where he's planning
I
on
would say so.
developing.
That's usually.
Probably be pretty beneficial, I would think.
definitely.
They haven't done.
All right, so I'm hearing that maybe we can try to coordinate a site walk on the first Monday of April. Along with asking the folks
Yeah, they should be there.
to come.
7:10 I'm seeing is sunset that night.
Ooh, wonderful.
AI.
Walking in the woods in April can be nice. Leaves haven't,
Or not.
Do we have a conservation
let's get up.
commission preference of starting at 5 or 5:30 that day? How do
As long
people
as we have-
work schedules?
I can move it up a half an hour if we need to make sure we have plenty of time.
Is that hard for you?
If you guys are fine, I'm fine with that.
All right. That sounds like a good plan.
Sounds good.
Or
Well, you guys won't do anything between now and then, really, with the lands committee or anything, okay?
Now, we've talked as much as we will.
Okay.
Ahead of a sidewalk, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
all right, sounds good. Maybe there'll be some frogs then. It's early, but you know, we might get an early thaw.
Good time.
I should.
The survey, right?
Surveys, right? We have someone who does vernal pool sewer surveys, so he'll be able to at least give us a rough idea if there's egg masses. Oh, we got two? Oh, you two, that's right?
Yeah, we got the frogs covered. Great.
Thanks for.
Thank you very much
Joining us,
for
guys.
joining us.
Yes, thank you so
Thanks,
much
ma'am.
for having us.
You're welcome to stay.
Well, I
but-
think
Oh, Pam's sticking around for.
Yeah, Pam's here for another discussion too, I believe, correct, Pam?
I'm here just to, are we talking about the permission to go on town land?
Yes, that's next.
That's next. So,
All right.
All right, thank you, everybody. All right.
Map, yeah, stuff we have.
So since we last met, Mark Waltz asked that we review the request of Tom Burrell on behalf of the Dimer Family Trust regarding tree harvesting as outlined in the plan that I sent around, and I know I just updated those because I just got that info, so hopefully Josh can throw up the town map.
So a little history, the piece of property that they are asking for has belonged to this town since 1936. It is on our, owned by the town. We have no access to this piece of property. And the Deemer Family Trust, which was owned by, the Doris Deemer, a former employee of the town, history here. Her son-in-law is Tom Burrell, and they are experiencing, I think you have the documents, heavy hemlock. Josh, help me, what's it called? Some sort of infestation.
There you go.
Yeah. And so they
Yeah.
reached out to a local forester and were working with him to make a plan to clear some of their land. Because of the location of the lot, they need access to the town property. And I'll be honest, in all of the times that we reviewed anything that was open space or recreation or town property, this one just kind of sat there because it's landlocked and we never really could do anything with it. They are asking simply to have access, that little red line. Josh, do they folks have a copy of the map that they're requesting?
Looking at it, Pam, I think.
Oh, yeah, the one that you sent over though had the little,
Yeah,
basically
Yeah.
just cut through the.
Basically that they
This is where it
just
is, correct, Pam, on the screen? Yeah.
see, Josh, what you're looking at. I'm sorry from my view. There, I'm still seeing
Yeah.
the map that we were working on before.
Oh, I see, okay, yes, I forgot that I actually need to,
Sorry.
change which.
So basically, they're
I'm-
coming to the,
it's-
we'll get there, Pam.
they're coming,
Yes,
that's
so
okay,
that's-
sorry, guys. They're coming to the selectmen on Thursday night and they're
Nope.
asking permission to go on that land. And talking with Mark, because you are the Conservation Commission, we felt it would be appropriate to just run it past you for knowledge purpose, to know about the parcel and what they are requesting for access. And I think it's that R0861 where there is a house. They're coming in between those lots and through a small portion of the town property just to cut trees and do some clearing. They're not clear cutting, they're doing selective cutting. The gentleman who is the forester for this property's name is Paul Larrabee. He is the gentleman who did the forestry plan with us with a local resident who's also a forester, Kevin Doran. And they are only looking to work on the hemlock issue and to protect the forest that is there.
Paul Larrabee is the one that did the management plan out of the rec fields,
Correct.
right? Above the rec
Correct.
fields? Yeah, he
He's
did a
all,
really nice
he
job.
also does, I think he also represents and does stuff around Sebago Lake for Portland Water District.
Hmm.
I know Paul,
Right.
he's
Yeah.
pretty well respected.
He
seems
is
like
very
really solid.
well respected, and he and Kevin work together and are always in the best interest. He reached out to me. I in turn sent him to Mark Waltz because this isn't land that we manage. And so Mark recommended that he, take it to the select board. And I think they're hoping to do some of the work prior to the frost, but I doubt that's going to really happen at this point. Or I hope it is.
I was out there today, they're out there cutting right now on
their property. Yeah.
on their property. It doesn't require access across because of the warm weather coming presumably in
Right.
some of the areas. I
Right.
think it's kind of that. So, yep. Did anyone?
So
Is there-
And no one's gonna look at this though. I mean, it's I drove out there today. I mean, you can't get to that property without going up the railroad tracks or going across private property, basically.
Right. So they're just basically asking for permission to build for no shorter term, a logging road just to pull some of the wood out of there and load it in a workable area.
Is it gonna be do we know, is that wet? That's all wetland, right?
No, we have the overlay. I know today what
Yeah.
I observed out there today, they were excuse me. The logger had made like a corduroy road to get across like a drainage ditch. So if there were some concerns about those areas, we would wanna, the select board would wanna mention, making sure
Yeah,
they lay down timber mats or build a corduroy road out of some logs where it's wet, so they don't.
That's what I saw. And it was like right where they're going, they're gonna be entirely in the wetlands, so I wouldn't want them to. I would want to caution building an actual dirt road.
I think it's just gonna be a haul road to drag trees out, so it's gonna be like,
Exactly.
my guess is probably 16 feet wide. And it sounded like they were gonna compensate the town for any trees that they cut. My question was, if there's hemlock woolly adelgid on that lot, there probably is on the town lot, and could we get that forester and that logger to harvest do a selective cut on the town's property while they're in there? Because you're never gonna get
Well,
better
we'd have to have
opportunity.
we'd have to have a
Well-
forestry plan for it. And
Wow.
I think at this time, they are very, I mean, if you know this family, they're willing to work with us as much as we like, and Paul as well. It's just that we need to come to some sort of, agreement with that after the fact. I think right now they're asking for the immediate future to have access to the, just to get their wood out, but that's certainly.
Did we lose Pam?
Guys, sorry, I have my 18-year-old grandson's birthday party is going on, and I'm supposed to be zooming into that right now, so sorry.
No
But
problem.
no, that's fine, but it was more that we felt as a courtesy, and we are aware of what you're asking for, and if we're interested. But for the immediate time, we're just looking for permission to do the, to let them go on the road with the precautions that you're asking.
I mean, I'm not opposed to allowing it in this
Especially
particular
knowing the
case.
foresters.
Knowing the forester and what they're looking for, as long as the select board will, make
I
sure. that
imagine
there's-
one question will be, what stops them from using Portage Way to connect the two pieces? I know it's a private property, but have they contacted the owners of that?
I know, it's a good question.
That
I
is
wrote
all
down
their property. That is all the
well,
Deemer Family Trust.
That's what we have when they have
Oh,
all
right,
access
sure.
already.
I wonder.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a great question, you guys. Should
That's one that I'll
theoretically ask.
probably ask.
Guessing if they're using skidders, it would rip up the road,
I'm
but
sure it would, but will it cause, yes, it will cause damage, but they're gonna
rip
fix
the
it.
wetland.
They'll fix it after they're done, just like they went on town land, they're gonna rip up that land and they're not gonna plant more trees per se, but
Right.
they're not gonna make it a mess and leave it a mess. I imagine they would do the same thing with a driveway that's already graded. They'll make it a mess, but then they'll grade it again.
Right where Portage Way bangs a left,
Mhm.
it comes in straight and left. If you go straight ahead toward that pin that you have shown there, that's where their landing is right now.
Mhm.
So they're trying to centralize all their operations to there.
Right.
Boy, but they probably don't want to create
Folks,
another landing.
I need to bow out. I know Ryan is there, and I will see Josh on
Yeah.
Thursday morning. So I will make sure to follow your guidance or direction and give it to them, but I am gonna bow out. I apologize, okay?
Enjoy your party, see you, ma'am.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
I guess
It's a good question to ask. I think they
only-
just don't want to create another like landing down there
Yeah.
and cut more trees and open, but because that's a pretty small little area down there that they're looking to cut. This little isolated area.
It's almost like that spot without knowing that land though. where we're coming into warm weather and rain. That's gonna get swampy and wetland and
I suspect if you guys approve it on Thursday night, they'll be going through.
They'll go in
They'll go
next
through,
day.
they're gonna be
Yeah.
in here Friday.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, are they taking buggies with the chained wheels and creating huge ruts? I know that they may lay a corduroy road, like you said, but how much of that are they gonna lay?
I think anything that they're doing, you need to specify that they need to, whatever best management practices are as far as restoring the road. Usually they'll put in water bars or they'll seed the road after. So anything that's required, and maybe they're doing the same.
They're all
thing.
pretty good about it. I mean, that's how they make their business.
Yep.
So they're, I mean, they all should be doing that, but the question will be, is that less or more cost prohibitive than going down the road and repairing the already existing portage way?
Yep, it's a very good point. Yep. Yep. So.
Did they have to do did they have to get a timber harvest plan with the Maine Forest Service for it?
You just have to go online and do they must have got a notification form. You go on to Maine Forest website and fill out a notification. So, I mean, they would have had to point out, I presume, that wetlands. I don't know, I can only see, you can't get anywhere there to see how much they're harvesting. They are taking more than hemlock trees, though. They're not just taking hemlock. There was pine trees. I did see some hemlock, pine, and some hardwoods too. So they're not just targeting one species. They're doing a selective cut. What I saw looked good, though. There's no clear cut going on. It's just a trees here and there.
Would it be wise for us to ask them when they come on Thursday? I know we need a forestry plan for it. What does it take to get a forestry plan together? I mean, if
You
for
wouldn't
us to.
necessarily, oh, you mean for our parcel?
Yeah, I mean,
You wouldn't necessarily, that's not in tree growth tax law, so you don't need a forest management plan. I think Paul and, what's the other guy?
Kevin.
Duran. or Kevin. I think they could easily answer that question, and if they go in there and actually I mean, it's a perfect time to do
It's a
it.
responsible thing to do when you own land. I mean, we've got to manage the land properly.
Yep.
And rather than have somebody go into landlocked land, the timing seems right, where they're creating the access points, why not? Find a way to responsibly manage the land as well.
Especially if there is the hemlock trees in there.
And
those
that's
things
what
die eventually.
And I only say that because we were talking about this also about the ash borer that's happening in Topsom, by the Topsom Forsyth Fields. And we don't want this to spread.
Oh, is there some over there?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, they're treating the trees now, and it's a significant cost because they have to drill holes and inject the trees with a certain pesticide to prevent them coming, but it's something they have to do every 2 years, and then they have to spray also, but what's the responsible thing to do with the town land here for the environment, number one, the conservation of the land and promotion of tree growth. I mean, in general, thinning it out a little bit is only gonna help the little trees grow bigger and stronger. I don't know what that land looks like, so I can't really speak on
Pretty
it, but
flat, I think, it's what I observed. The only thing would be, you guys would want to look in to see if there's any, I don't know how the town acquired this land in 1938. My assumption is back then there wasn't any restrictive covenants put on that the land could never be cut. You'd want to make sure that there aren't any restrictive covenants on what you could do with the parcel. I mean, we did our vote years ago on what it was. It's kind of landlocked. I think we were thinking because it's connected to the railroad, that there might be some value there in having, a future trail corridor and some land next to it. But
have we done anything with it since 1938 when we acquired it?
no, I mean, we've talked about the possibility of doing timber harvesting on some other properties that we've owned. The timing is good because they're right there, because otherwise it would not make sense for a timber operation to come in to harvest 8 acres. It's just too small of a piece of property. The question would be, Ryan, where do the proceeds go to? That'd be another question.
Sure, we'll go to the town.
Did that go to the general fund, or does it go to?
Yeah, revenue sharing for next year, probably it'll come in as revenue and offset funded for next year.
Fund a national areas plan?
So my only other question is, because it's inaccessible, if they did decide to go in through Portage Way, like, is that?
Could we get some access? Like out here,
Uh-huh.
some connection right there?
Yeah.
That could be a nice ask. That we have a.
Or even like
walking easement or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, get a little trail right on the property line.
if they're building a
Yeah, I mean, they're
little
gonna have,
walking
they're
road.
gonna have a little logging road anyways, it could just become a permanent walking easement for access. That is a private road, by the way, is this posted with private signs and. So I guess I was.
It's a driveway,
I was-
but there's two houses on it,
Yeah,
so.
the land's posted, but I decided to take my chances and drive down there anyways. Figured, I'm here for the town,
You've been-
we're here on behalf of the family.
Okay.
Does anyone have any? Side of the little concerns, I mean, this, I didn't hear a no, right, from people, it's just a few little things, what do you think, Eric?
We said foresters involved, so definitely. Not running up the wetlands, I assume is in good interest, so.
Yeah.
You see timber mats out there or mostly just the?
They had just fabricated some corduroy roads themselves with some of the logs, which works too.
Yeah. Trusted forester, that's.
Yeah.
The only thing I think of.
Yeah, and our natural areas plan supports working forests, I mean, that's a high priority.
Yeah.
That's what this is enabling.
Well, I will certainly make sure to ask those questions on Thursday, because I think
Yep.
you're right, an 8 acre parcel is not something someone's gonna come out and do. Just on their own.
It wouldn't take this is the guy, the loggers, I also know who they are, local, they're right in West Bath, Higmo's logging. Pretty.
Oh, Higmo's doing it?
Yeah, Alan Higgins, so, and they've got some big mechanized equipment, but he generally does a good job, so.
You know, I do typically find that most of those guys want to make the land clean when they're done. They're not there.
I mean, he's local.
Yeah,
He's not, he doesn't,
destroying
he don't wanna ruin his reputation
No.
as a local guy that's doing work all over the place, so.
All of those people.
But it wouldn't take him long with the equipment he has to go in and do a selective cut on that 8 acres. You know, if he could fit it in before, it looks like next week the temperatures are gonna be. We're like turning the corner big time, like.
Really?
Fourth syrup will be done.
30, yeah, I know, it's like, no, it's like a 1 week
Every day.
syrup season, we're all done.
Too warm at night, too warm during the day, not cold enough at night.
Alright,
All right.
you didn't need like an official, you don't need an official vote, it's just a discussion, right?
No, really, Mark just wanted to know, like, it, basically, he thought it would be wise to at least let the Conservation Commission just know that it was going to the select board on Thursday and ask if you guys had any specific comments that you wanted to share. And that was all. And if you didn't have any comments, then
Minor stuff.
And I think it's wise, I think Marcus is on the right path for that. I think it's wise to utilize the committees and commissions that we have in their expertise. That's why they're here. That's why it's good to have town ownership of everything, and this is the greatest way to do it. Bring it to the specific body that has the information and the knowledge to make the decision. That just gives the select board ultimately a better position to take. Because we know that other eyes have looked at it that are probably wiser than us in that area.
If you looked on there, yeah, you see it right here, we had done an assessment at some point of whether the town should basically sell or keep the property and what it could be potentially used for, so. So obviously, we're not talking about selling it in this discussion, but. All right.
Great. Sky also let me know that I think the select board approved our community project partnership form. That we should, go through the approved form and the contents to inform our natural areas plan work. I feel like we went through this many times, and looked at it a lot, so I'm not sure if there was a specific thing we're supposed to do, or if we were supposed to refresh ourselves before we move forward.
yeah, from my understanding, it was just a refreshing before we move forward, just to make sure that everything that you move forward with is in alignment with the that policy.
Okay,
Makes sense.
great. We will be in alignment. Does anybody have any questions about that form or want to circle back to any of the sections of that? Okay.
Do we know if our,
Do you want to talk about can you give us a finance committee update?
Oof, I wasn't at the finance committee update that.
See.
you know.
What
with regard to
specifically?
Specifically with regard
We
to
asked
funding of the
About
natural areas plan.
funding for the natural
That
areas.
is being
plan.
discussed on this Thursday as an agenda item. We are coming together as a board to discuss budget there was some à la carte items at the very end. They were presented as à la carte items in addition to the budget. One of those things was police dogs and take-home police cruisers. And then this also, the consultant for this, that's all gonna be up for discussion. One of the discussion pieces that I have heard is cautionary towards consultant fees. Although not disapprove them blanketly, but understanding that in the past that we've spent a lot of money on consultant fees and then we've done nothing with the information they've given us, which is a hard sell in a place where budgets and property taxes and values are going skyrocket. I think there's a caution that we want to make sure that whatever funds are being spent towards any kind of consultant is getting utilized and made sense for. We're not getting for $80,000, we're not gonna get back a 12-page report on information that we then have to go spend more money to implement, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so just so you know, if it comes up or questions about that come up, we've been doing a lot of groundwork ourselves, including getting some Bowdoin student help to get our maps together. And so hiring our consultant would be more to do some of the polishing of maps and making them available for public input. And to help with the public input process. And then the final, so the way we did the natural areas plan is we included a bunch of data, including public input, and then did a ranking matrix where that ranked our natural areas and open space from high, medium to low quality. So part of what we're hoping to have a consultant do is redo that analysis. So it's not, I mean, it is something we could do, but we're just volunteers and,
We don't
So-
have to.
so we-
A lot of
we-
that's through GIS, which we don't have the ability to.
so we have very
Right.
targeted reasons for using a consultant. It's not like we want them to write a new management plan update. We're writing that. But we could use some skills for certain projects, including getting, information ready for public app.
If I may then, allow me to play devil's advocate for a second, so I can help sway conversations in the right direction. How would I answer the question? What does ranking high, moderate, and low conservation area mean versus what does it do? Is it just information that we're going to pose and say, this is just high and low and moderate, or does that actually mean something that we're gonna do something with that land?
So right now that they're actually heavily used by BTLT and us whenever we're looking to, when things like the 300 Meadow Cross come to us. We look at how is it ranked on our natural areas plan and what categories is it ranked high, medium or low in? So was it identified by the public as being of high importance? Is it connecting natural areas in some way? Is it allowing recreation? Does it have important vernal pools or important habitat on it? So we actively use those rankings, and it's been 15 years since we've done those rankings, so we'd really like to provide public input so that we can continue to make good choices.
So those rankings forge your decisions on whether or not to take ownership of land like today.
Perfect example
Yes,
is the
what you're
one,
doing. And
yeah, versus the one I mentioned many years ago.
Yeah.
Which is over in the Glades development, which is the one that's at the end of Home Place and over in that area. Where, yes, there was woods to be set aside, but it didn't meet any of our criteria because it wasn't identified as a high or a medium. I think it was low. So it helps inform, in that case, we decided and advised the planning board, don't take this land, take the fee in lieu of the open space. That was a better plan there. So it helps us with identifying some changes to subdivision ordinances and development transfer ordinances and stuff like that. We definitely used a lot, Ryan, from the last natural areas plan to develop some of the ordinances that we have. The other important part is, and this isn't something we can get from a consultant, is once we get updated maps, is that public input part.
Yeah.
Topsham's changed a lot in 15 years.
Yes, it is.
So it's like, the people felt a certain way
Do
15
you
years
still have the
ago.
same
Do
value?
they still feel that way? And based on how they feel today, how does that change the maps?
Yeah.
And determine what's important, what's no longer important to people in Topsom. Things may have changed, so.
Yeah. Also, I know that it goes into the BTLT priority list, whether or not what their ranking is in the natural areas plan, and that helps them make decisions as well.
Does this is this gonna overlay the entire town of Topsom to shape the next 15 years of development also? Or is it only looking at the land that the town of Topsom owns?
No,
It's
no,
the whole
all-
town.
It's all,
Not just town.
all of Topsom to know what the town wants to preserve.
Yeah.
With high confidence.
Josh, could you throw the map? Maybe,
Sorry to delay this, but if,
No,
if
no,
if we're gonna meet on
It's great.
Thursday, it would be good to have
great to have.
every type
a
of
chance to
information I
think about
can
it, yeah.
to help formulate a decision.
And then the last piece is, we were hoping to, like, Mark checked into the legality of using some of the open space and lieu fee funds to cover the cost, the consultant cost, so that it wouldn't change people's taxes or increase taxes. And so I think what's coming to you is a request to use some of those funds.
Yeah,
From
I
that
think
open
there's
space and lieu
currently
fee.
around $800,000 in a fund that this would come out of.
Right,
For this purpose, that's been earmarked for things like this.
yeah,
We have a few.
so
actually.
it kind of, like, knowing that it wouldn't impact people's taxes, but also would be utilized, the money would be utilized for the purpose it was set forward.
So this is something that I personally always ask when I come into this. It's kind of like when we look at the comprehensive plan of 2019.
Mhm.
We've been working on RICO for 3 or so years, but it's been
Right.
almost 10 years since. Yeah, I know, it's been a while, right? Eventually, we're gonna reach a point where we're gonna have to either do another comprehensive plan or suck it up, and thereby, this is kind of where this goes. We're
Have
gonna
to do a comprehensive plan every 10 years.
Right, so we're coming on that with
Yeah.
2 more years, so. What we do is we run against all of it, and I guess what I'm really ultimately getting at is this fee is hopefully gonna be a little different, because we don't have to do this every 15 years, although maybe we do have to do this every 10 or 15 years or 20 years. And it just needs to be on our radar for future budget and future needs, or maybe this is just one thing, but ultimately, the frustration would lie that we spend money on the consultant who gives us a plan that we work really hard and spend additional money to kind of implement. And then in 15 years, we do it again and we change it all.
Yeah.
And
I don't
because
think there's anything like,
I don't think
you have to do the comp plan every 10 years per state law.
Yeah, I was gonna say the comp plan.
There's nothing that you have to do that with a natural areas plan. Our driver is because the comp plan recommended that we update the natural areas plan
Yeah.
6 years ago. So that's where the recommendation
It's,
comes from.
and this also comes on the back of our school district wanting like hundreds of thousands of dollars for consultant fees that do nothing with the consultant fees. We get a lot of people that come and email us or talk to us and say, enough with the consultants already.
Yeah,
We really just. And that's the transparency that we're trying to provide, but I have to ask those questions and feel obligated to, in order to stay transparent, where. If we can justify them, then
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense, and then if they're not justifiable, we have to really start digging into asking a little bit more
Yeah.
questions. This to me doesn't sound like something. That. We're gonna have to repeat or do, but does seem fairly important, and this ask was what, 80,000, 60,000?
It's even that much. 40.
40 and 50. Yeah.
but I think that was like. All the bells and whistles, so like anything that we could get to get us started
There was
with.
something
And I
else.
think if we can some of that,
Yeah.
fee in lieu, some of
Yeah.
those funds, we could reduce it. And as you said, where this plan was written by a consultant. I mean, we all had our reviews and input, but our hope is to, boil this down to something smaller, more of an update to this.
Mhm.
But we just need help with a lot of the maps and some of the analysis that creates have the focus areas changed from 2010?
And I think that that's an important note too, is that this is an update more so than a redo, right? So that like, it's not that the last time that this plan was done, it's like, great, thank you for that, like, toss it. Let's do a new one now, And so, I guess.
There's a lot of stuff in here that's still valuable information that we're not getting rid of.
So
But some of the recommendations that we had for actually protecting the natural areas and open space haven't really been used.
Mhm.
And so just like we did the recode to try to make sure we have zoning that makes sense, it also makes sense to review, like, if these aren't working for developers or natural areas protections or open space, are there other ideas that we can gather that might work better in our town, especially with the way things have changed since it was established, so.
Oh, the other thing that I think of constantly is in the way that our town grows, even given the shape of what the recode potentially can do by creating population density in the pockets. Naturally, we're gonna start seeing things like Meadow Road and other neighborhoods wanting to come in because people do want houses. But that's what makes Topsom so unique, is that we have all of the diversity of a small city and this rural land that sits on the outskirts. And, you know, I think it's preferable specifically to the people that have been here a long time, maybe generationally, that we keep those outskirts rural and find ways to conserve that land so that we don't see the development just spread and spread and spread as this pocket community grows, because as the state grows, Topsom's the driver of it. We're placed uniquely within 20 minutes of the highest paying jobs in the state and the largest employers in the state.
Yeah.
And we all live here. But nobody that lives here works here, because
I do.
one of the lucky, you and all the teachers.
By the way, that development we were looking at today, Ryan, is just about right
in that
Like over
area.
here.
right, somewhere right at Meadow Cross and kind of right where those streams go through, I think is.
So
So it's
with
kind
this,
of on, so that helped inform our process.
so with
today.
this overlay map, you looked at it as, oh, that looks like a focus area for
Yep.
us.
And when we did these focus areas, I know they look like these big polygons. We purposely didn't draw them around people's property boundaries. We just we created a polygon. So we weren't, people like, oh, how come my property is not included, but mine is? So we've just
Or
sort of.
why putting my property on.
It makes sense because we don't know what the future holds, but we know it's gonna be different than anything that we can expect.
Different now than it was 15.
So the more that we can gauge conservation, I'm all for. Because I grew up in Topsom. I've been here for 44 years. A long time to be in any one place, and I've seen a lot of change happen, more so in the past 10 years than way back. But this is good. This is helpful and positive, good work.
So,
All right.
do you have any other questions for us?
I
Because
don't. I really
think
do
we-
appreciate you letting me ask those questions.
It's-
Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy to continue dialogue, but it's something that we think is important, not only because we feel that way, but because it was in the comp plan as one of the implementation suggestions. So. Yeah,
Do we need somebody to go there on Thursday?
I don't think it would hurt if questions came up to have somebody there at the select board meeting.
Is it just select board or is the finance committee there as well?
No, this is just the select board. Finance committee has their own separate one, and then we go back together and we approve every line item separately, but we do it all in one room. Because it's an a la carte, I don't mean to use that term in the wrong way, but is that additional piece that we're voting on, yes or no, it might be beneficial to have someone there
Okay.
to answer questions,
Yeah.
because it's more of a conversation between the select board, but if questions come up, we can always call on someone to answer that if someone's around.
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful, because I do think there's gonna be some people that initially feel one way and others that feel a different way completely.
Yeah.
So ultimately getting all
You
the
volunteer,
information.
you know?
I was like, I'm the weakest one when it comes to this, but I do have availability.
How's your schedule looking?
I cannot go this Thursday.
Okay, I may try to go,
Great.
but this is.
I mean, I'll be there.
6 or 6.
6:30.
6:30. Yeah.
Oh, I'll
I
put
mean,
I'll put it on the calendar
can
and see how.
throw some
Great.
stuff out there and.
No, I think just consistent with what we said here.
Yeah.
think it's
I
just.
think the next two select board meetings are gonna be fairly busy select board meetings. We have some agenda items coming up that are gonna be at length. Budget being one of them.
Okey dokey.
Chris, we'll just be in touch, because if you are gonna go and you don't need my support, then I might drive to Sugarloaf, but if it looks like you guys would need the
You can
backup
zoom
to
in
be
too,
here.
Chris, so you don't have to be there for the whole thing.
I'll consider that. I get it on my calendar.
Great.
See how it works out.
Awesome.
And just like, it's, the links are just like for Conservation Commission, so if you decide that you can zoom in, you can find the link on the website under select board.
Oh, the Zoom links are like our meeting
Do
links.
they
they're
allow,
also
do they
posted.
allow
Gotcha.
public to chime in now, or is it just listen only?
No, they allow the public to chime in during public comment,
Okay,
but. I mean,
If you have a
Jeff can
question.
just give you click the button and say you can talk now.
okay.
If we ask a question, we can really address anybody in the audience to come up and answer.
Okay. So, sounds like our next meeting, we're gonna schedule our site walk at 5 p.m. with BTLT at the 300 Meadow Cross. And as far as moving forward with those folks,
When's our next meeting?
April 6th.
So I will invite Joe Martin.
Yes, please. And do you feel
They get on my work.
like when you send that invite, you could say, we talked about it, BTLT was here and so was Pam, and we'd like to do this site walk.
Yeah,
Right, sidewalk, yep.
yeah, I can give them the general.
None of us have said no, but
No,
none of
no
us have said
decisions have been
yes.
made,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Everyone
Just
just
wanna
wants
see the
to see the
property.
sign.
Yep, that's all we need to tell
We
them.
told him last month. I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise that we wanna see the property before we say anything about
Yep.
it.
Well, I think it behooves them to try to get rid of the property that's in excess and they don't have to pay the taxes on it.
That's true.
Or having the homeowner association have to pay for it. That's why I think they'll give away as much as they can,
Well, I think
or want us to accept as much as possible.
what he's specific, this frankly, this type of stuff, this is one. In the rural R3 zone, we've never had one of these since we put it in place through the Topsham area national. This is the first one. We had a couple that were closer to town, which were giving us like these little fat big pieces of property, not an
Okay.
actual separate law. We go and visit
We go
those,
there.
we go visit those every year.
Here,
Every third year, to go see one of those.
yep.
But this allows them to put more house lots in. With this development, then I think they could if they did the traditional acre and a half, even though your calculation says 78. They're not- It's too expensive to put 78 1.5 acre lots out
Yeah.
there.
I do
roads and
think
everything.
if we wanted to conserve anything out there, though, conserving a chunk that they don't put additional lots on has more value than if they could spread it out to the 1.5
It's also
acre.
like, it's also worth considering too, like, I think conservation subdivisions do something with land that. There's a reason almost every town has them now, like, especially. I'm kind of jumping around, but like, for example, in the comp plan, there is this idea of, I think what they called when they wrote it, like the hamlet, right? Like. You have rural areas where you kind of have these little pockets of neighborhoods. And then they're surrounded by lots and lots of green space, right? And so. That's, oftentimes, sometimes I think rural can be perceived as like lots of really big lots that are really far away from each other, and that's rural too. But I think sometimes when you can have development that really keeps lots of large green spaces intact permanently, I think that in a way, in the long run, that almost creates like a safer rural feeling. Oftentimes you'll have people move in somewhere and they'll move next to like really big, beautiful forests, right? Until their next door neighbor decides that they're gonna sell it and build a subdivision next door. And they think I moved here because this was such a beautiful, beautiful spot. And now the woods that, my kids were running in is gone now, right? And in this different way of developing, this would go in and pretty much that the land around you is going to always be there. The trees will always be there. That stream will be surrounded by trees. Like,
And this is exactly what we envisioned when we wrote the natural areas plan, and this is a challenging lot, but that the front forward facing closest to the road, most developable land would get higher density housing development, and you'd set aside the back 40. Well, this just happens to be 38.48 acres, so.
Do we-
So,
Like, the ag conservation easement, is that in perpetuity forever with BTLT? Or like they own these?
it's in a state, it's like that. It's the state ag land, which I assume is in perpetuity.
I mean, the fact
Then
that
that is like a
that
good
those are
chunk.
bought
Yeah.
and that this is in a focus area, make it.
Oh, That's my neighbor.
Where is this?
Right next to your house.
Never mind. Never mind.
You don't need everybody to know we're out here.
All right,
What else do we have? We're not, obviously not doing much on, not doing anything on maps tonight again.
Josh, where, did you happen to look at the binder?
He did.
Oh,
But, so apparently long ago, it went to go live in the manager's office.
Okay.
So Mark actually has the binder. And
binder of town property.
yes, yes. So what I'm gonna look into, what I'm gonna look into doing, and this may take a little while, so I don't know, but I'm gonna try to find out if there's a way to kind of have a digitized like list.
This is where they wanted to do the site law solar. Right behind here is where they wanted to do the site law solar.
Really interesting.
It's a big, there's a big wetland, like that, this is all wetland down here. Yeah. Yeah,
that sounds
FYI.
like an excellent intern project.
Yeah.
Digitizing the
intern?
property list.
We are looking into interns, although it's looking like this year's intern may, this is very preliminary and big.
Of course.
But it's looking like they may be more on the, like planning, like urban planning side, more so than, I think previously they were, natural resources, but I mean, it's all planning related still, so.
I mean, ideally, the information that you have from our assessment to 15 years ago of these town-owned properties would go in a GIS layer.
Right.
So you'd have a GIS layer, and with our, you pop up and there's an assessment, our write-up of the assessment, when it was last assessed. I mean, but, and I know you dabble in GIS or you do it, but not putting this all on you, but I'm pleased to know that the binder has been
The
found.
binder has been found, and we are looking at what we can do with it to make it more accessible.
Another question I would have
And I
on the
mean,
binder, sorry, digress again, is how many town-owned parcels have been added since we updated the binder? And are there any new town-owned parcels that need to be, that we need to assess as a commission? Because that's one of our charges, is to look at any town-owned parcels and determine their value for retention or sale.
Yep.
So.
Yep, no, those are the kinds of questions that I've been looking at, like, you know. I transition this into some sort of digital format. Ideally it'd be something that any TCC meeting at any time, someone would be like, oh, let's pull that up and take a look really quick, I think that would be super useful. No promises on when, but it is,
It's on your radar.
it's on the radar and it exists and it's gonna happen.
So did a developer buy all 4 of those lots that I'm looking at? They're developing the one where your cursor is and giving away 3? Is that what I heard?
Oh,
No,
so
I think it's just the one across the.
yeah, so it's just these 2 lots here. The owner owns these as 2 separate lots, but they're going to sell them as basically one. And so the buyer can then develop it as if it's one lot.
And the current developer that's proposing is proposing to build on the top side.
Yeah.
And figuring out what to do at the bottom of that portion for whether they donate that to the town or the commission or whoever takes ownership of it. Is that
Yeah.
those are the 2 lots that are in
Exactly.
question of those
Yeah.
2?
Do they own, when CMP has a corridor like this, does CMP own the corridor or do they just have a permanent lease?
Depends.
Yeah, it depends. In this
Sometimes
case,
they own it, sometimes it's just.
yeah, in this case, it's just CMP. It's not a CMP easement. This is like
They
CMP
own
land
it,
here.
okay.
Yeah,
I just know sometimes parcels, like it says.
sometimes it's an easement.
Yeah, and or like people think they don't own under the road and they own under the road and then they're actually contiguous, like it's very interesting, so that's why I wanted to ask, not that matters, but.
Is this the solar? This big wet area right here?
Yeah, near that was where it was proposed,
I was gonna say, it looks really saggy.
Yeah, they lost
That
it. They
whole
lost the
area,
Skinner in
all the
there.
way up to the Lisbon Town line. It's just between like Ward Road and 196.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just like, it's like a 1,000-acre block,
Wow.
which, in an area like Topsham, that's so close to everything, as you said, to have that big of a chunk of property that's essentially been undeveloped is pretty rare.
Well, and also that much more important to keep.
Yeah.
And that's why it was
I
obviously
look at
a big focus area.
the success of a community in my mind is whether or not the next generation can afford to live here.
Yep.
And we look at our next generation, what are we leaving them? And are we giving them anything that they can leave to somebody else, because it's gonna get more so developed once they get their hands on it.
You don't want to build a beautiful town and then your kids have to move away out of necessity.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
what, I'm in that boat. My kid's graduating in 2 years, Bennett's leaving soon, Margaret's recently gone.
Yeah.
You know the pain, like if they want to move into Topsham, how hard would it be?
Yeah.
Pretty hard.
Pretty darn hard.
So my focus is more or less on keeping our community balanced, or young families can move into this place,
Mhm.
not just retirees and wealthy people.
That's it.
Okay, that's a sidetrack, so.
$700,000
love that planning.
house, right?
Yeah.
And these places are supposedly market value, which. were like
350.
No,
No, he said
750,000, I think.
Is
That's
that
what he
50?
said.
Oh, market value, yeah.
Market value, so they're not low income.
It's like the tip over across the street,
Yeah.
market value rates.
Gosh.
Yeah, it's terrible though, because we're finding that at least right now in this moment. Developers almost need tax incentives to be able to do affordable housing. It's just crazy because the cost of materials has become so much, and it's one thing that like I think about more, whereas like I think, man, God, it must have been really nice where maybe like, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, towns could be like, you're gonna develop, you're gonna make a lot of profit on this, like they're still gonna be affordable, and we can ask like, hey, like maybe we'll let you get even more density if you help us out with this project, things like that. And it's just terrible because now it's like, to make the numbers work, like.
Well, we get a tip right over here.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the ultimate question, and especially with conserving land, is if you can't afford it without a tip, do you do it?
It's question.
For a market rate for a $750,000 home,
It's pretty.
and especially when you look at trends of taxes in the next 10 years, because compounding interest is real. We're at a point where 10% of 50 million is different than 10% of $50. We're at the 50 million side of things, so when growth happens, it happens large. That $750,000 home is gonna have a $10,000 tax assessment on it. Throw that onto your mortgage. No young families moving in there. No kids are coming to the school district. So there's a lot that goes into a lot of this, and I think, but ultimately conservation of this land is in dire need.
Shane, do we have anything else that we need to cover? I mean, I know
We have
did,
1
but
minute. I'm making a motion that we end our meeting now.
Buddy seconds that.
All right.
After that.
All in favor? 7 PM?
It's
Outta
great,
here.
it's great that you're on. Oh, I was looking at that clock up there. You gave us 2 more minutes, so.
Oh, no,
I'm glad
my
you were paying
thing says
attention.
7.
That contiguous, all that contiguous forest is what was freaking me out